Hey everyone, I hope you guys are having a wonderful day or night, depending on what part of the world you're in. Today's video is about my take on the PassLabs XP32 preamplifier. Before I go on and talk about it, please hit that subscribe button below. Give me some of that support that I need in order to continue doing what I'm doing. And I really would appreciate if we continue my journey, but you guys helping me with subscriptions, helping me be part of my channel and not just be another viewer. Okay, I try very hard to interact with a lot of you guys. If you read the comments, I'm always very attentive, and I try to respond as best as possible. I know I don't get to everyone, but I try to respond to a lot of you guys, to be fair. Would like to talk about the XP30 before I begin the XP32. If you remember the XP30 on my list of preamplifiers that I have owned, it was basically dead last. I believe it was position number 8 on the list of preamplifiers. Now, I want to make sure that I say this. The XP30 was dead last when I compared it to everything else I've owned. The XP30 might be the best preamplifier you have had in your system, and I would totally believe that if you told me that. But because I am playing, of course, with things here that are, very out there as far as price, as far as the tier groups, as far as, the ultra high end, basically. That's what I'm playing with. I just said I feel it is dead last, the XP30. Now, the XP32, if what you want to know from this video, is it better? Yes. You have your answer. It is a better line stage than the XP30. Okay. Now, those of you who want to stay here and hear me out as far as what I think makes this line stage better, well, I think that the XP32, tonally speaking, is a much more beautiful, engaging preamplifier. It has a very beautiful Class A sound. It contains this feeling of fatigue-free presentation that never gets old. It never gets boring. It sounds beautiful. Regardless of whatever you're playing through this line stage, it's always going to reward you with beautiful sound. It is absolutely just as well built as the XP30 was. It actually looks very similar. I mean, you still have here the mute button mode input for you to change your inputs, right? It's pretty much the same. Here, if you're wondering what this is, okay, in case you guys are not familiar, what this is, okay, this is a volume control, if you will, of the second set of outputs. Okay, so here are the outputs. That knob in the front that I just showed you is basically going to drive this set of outputs, okay? The slave, if you will. Right, so let's say you are using a subwoofer, or let's say you're using 4 sets of amplifiers. You would connect your first 2 monos in here, right? And that would be driven by the main volume control. And this one, with those knobs that I just showed you on the front, you can actually control how much juice comes out of these. That way, if let's say you have a pair of Krell amplifiers for your lows, and let's say you have a pair of Parasound amplifiers for your highs, right? Well, you can connect your Krells here. You can connect your Parasounds right here. And then with that knob on the front, those knobs, you can actually adjust the gain, if you will, of the amplifier to make sure that both sets of amps have exactly the same amount of juice. So you're not sending more power to the lows or more power to the high frequencies, all right? So this is very useful in my opinion, because oftentimes you're running a system where you need multiple sets of amplifiers, but you simply don't have the same brand and the same model of amplification, but you need to make it work. That's going to give you that flexibility. All right. It's going to allow you to fine tune things better and hopefully get you the most coherent presentation, so that one, like the bass is not out of whack and your highs are pretty recessed, or your highs are too forward and too projected into the room and your bass is lagging. That's what that's going to do. It's going to allow you to control the amount of juice, for lack of a better word, that goes into your amplifiers. Okay. As far as the back, you still have the inputs, a total of 5 inputs, if you can see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right here. And then you have the same 5 inputs on the on balance section. Okay. One thing you have to know about the pass labs, the pass labs have every single input, whether it's balance or on balance, they're live at all times. So if you come in and you hit, let's say, if you come in and you hit input number 1, right, and then you switch to 2, the line stage switches really fast. There's no delay at all. Okay, so that's actually a cool thing, because you can compare, let's say you have a source here connected here, and then you have another source connected here. With the flip of a button on your remote, the line stage will go from 1 to 2 really fast. You won't even hear a delay between each input. As you switch each input, it's not going to take a 2 to 3 second delay for the preamplifier to switch between inputs. And I think that's really cool. I like that feature a lot. So yeah, so every input is live here on the Pass Labs XP32 and even the XP30. So you could have 5 different sources connected. You have your theater pass through right here, which allows you to do your home theater in case you're using a home theater mixed with your 2-channel. You can still do that here. And this is your tape out for recording purposes and whatnot. Okay. Now, what's different about the XP32 this time around that the XP30 didn't have is these umbilical cords that you see here. Okay. So you see these connections? These are way different. They don't look anything like what the old line stage had. They actually look, the line stage from before had these connectors that look like computer cables, if that makes sense. Computer cables. Right? See this? This is different now. Very different than what we were seeing in the past. Okay, and I think that's actually helping. It's big, definitely some improvements, I would say, in comparison to the XP30. Now, in case you guys are wondering, so this is a mono configuration, right? So you have one chassis for the left. This is actually the red. The red usually signifies the right channel. So if you see red color here, that's what that means. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see it. You can see it, right? Red. That's usually your right channel, and then the one on the top being your left channel. Okay. Basically, guys, so this is one chassis for your right channel, left channel, and what that means is basically it isolates. And this is your control device. This basically isolates each channel, so there is really almost no crosstalk, right? So everything is independent. I do like this idea. I am actually wondering why Pass Labs didn't do the same design on the top of the line stage, their flagship, which is called the XS preamplifier. I really don't know why, but they just chose to do this with the XP32 and not with the XS. But anyway, some say that this line stage is actually better than the XS preamplifier. They say that if you have the XP32, you really shouldn't be concerned with the XS. Word on the street is the XS is about to be replaced with something else. I think it's time as well for that preamplifier to begin to find its way out of production, and hopefully something better steps in. But yes, so in a nutshell, they say that this preamplifier right now could be the best preamplifier that Pass Labs has. I will say it's very, very heavy when you pick it all up. It weighs, I feel like it weighs like 60 pounds, maybe 70 pounds. It weighs a lot. Aluminum construction, feels well built. Now, the one thing that I would say I was thinking about was to use footers. The problem is, guys, think about this. 3 chassis, 3 sets of footers, or 3 shelves, right? That's a lot of real estate for a lot of you guys. So I mostly used the preamplifier in a stack configuration, just like what you see. But I can tell you that, I mean, if you want to separate it, that's probably better. If you're going to isolate it, that's probably even better than what I did. But for the purpose of this review, I wanted to show you guys, what this preamplifier looks like on the back. Okay, moving to the front, I did want to say to you that one of the things that was really weird to me about this preamplifier was the fact that I always felt like I needed to give it a lot of volume for the amplifier to really get going. That was never, and mind you, I am using the Griffin amplifiers, which tend to have about 31 decibels of gain. And most amplifiers, just as a reference point, have around 26. And some of them even have adjustable gain on the back, so you can actually match it to have greater gain. That means you need less of a high input. You need less juice, essentially, coming into the amplifier for the amplifier to get loud. Most amplifiers have 26 dBs. The Griffin 10, they have about 31. But what was surprising to me about this was the fact that the XP32 still needed a lot of volume for it to get my Griffin amplifier moving. Okay, I don't know if that's by design. I don't know if that's simply past labs, just the way they do things. But I did think that I just sat there with the volume. I just sat there with the volume button pressed for a while before I heard any music out of my amplifier. But anyway, those are just me. That's just me nitpicking. When it comes to tonality, guys, I'm going to say this is a very, very smooth sounding unit, never bright. I mean, you can make anything bright. Yes. I mean, I will say, guys, you can make any component bright if you put enough cabling and terrible copper and the worst tweeter in the world. You can make anything sound bright. But I think the nature of this preamplifier, is not to be bright. It's actually coming at you from a musical, sweet, romantic way, kind of way. It doesn't come at you forward or in your face or just completely projected and firing at you on all cylinders. That's not the nature of this preamplifier, okay? I would recommend this preamplifier for the person that has, for example, a speaker that needs a little more smoothness, that harmony, that's the word, more harmony into the presentation. I think this preamplifier would work quite well for that speaker owner. Also, of course, if you own Past Labs amplifiers, I think this will be a great addition because it is, the same DNA and they're matched really well with their own amplifiers. I think that overall, the preamplifier does a pretty good job for the money spent with an MSRP of 17,000, I think it is 17,500 maybe USD. So I think it's a great value proposition when I compare it to other line stages. This preamplifier is certainly not on the neutral camp. I do not consider this, and this is something that I have to put out there. I have to be 100% real. I do not consider this preamplifier a very revealing ultra neutral preamplifier. When I compared it to my Griffin Pandora, I am going to tell you that, and I go back to the same conversation that I just had with you guys where I was showing you all the inputs, how they're all live at all times, and you can switch between one or the other. Well, anyhow, I was feeding this unit two different sources at once, and I always felt, okay, that I couldn't hear a difference between two sources. They sounded identical. And mind you, I was using different interconnects to begin with between two sources. I kept going back and forth between input 1 and 2, level match to the same decibel, to the T. They were both level match, and I kept going between 1 and 2, never heard any difference. I thought that it was maybe my amplifier that was not revealing enough. I thought it was maybe the interconnect that goes from the XP32 into the amplifier, that maybe it was just sugarcoating everything, and that's what was happening, right? But no, guys, once I went back to the Pandora line stage, the Griffin Pandora line stage, guys, and I did the same identical setup, I was able to hear a difference between input 1 and 2, between the two sources to be specific. So I am here to say that if you are looking to hear nothing but the source, exactly what the source brings to your system, this may not necessarily be the preamplifier for you. This preamplifier is not for you if you have a super revealing system, I don't think this would be the right purchase for you. Didn't do a good of a job distinguishing both sources, at least with me. And I tried different power cords in different interconnects, and it was the same outcome. It sounded great, but it was the same great sound with both sources. And so I felt like that was for me enough of a reason to not necessarily give it 100% rating when it comes to the overall sound reproduction. I am going to say, for me, if I were to put a number as far as what I give this preamplifier overall, when I consider the value, when I consider the design, when I consider the company and the reputation of the company, the customer service, when I consider the reliability of the product, when I consider everything that entails the unit as a whole, including the flaw that I just called out, which is it's not the most neutral or transparent unit, I am going to say that I will give it probably around an 80 to 85% grade. That would be my rating on this unit. I would say 80 to 85%. Okay, I think that those that are completely neutral and literally get out of the way, they're more like a wire with the gain, those would be the line stages that I would say qualify to be from like 86% and up. Depending on how much they cost and other factors, that's how I'm able to differentiate between each. And in closing, if you're looking for a line stage that is very engaging, very musical, beautiful, lots of sparkle, beautiful top end, very Class A like, very tube like as well, and you just want everything to sound great in your system, this is your line stage. Okay, 100%. Look no further. I think For the Money is a great offering. I think Paslabs really nailed it with this product. And I think just about everyone who buys this is going to be quite satisfied. The XP30 is all news, completely redesigned here, in my opinion, at least from the inside. And I think that Paslabs has done a great job at improving on the XP30, which I found very veiled and not necessarily as extended and as, for lack of a better word, as pretty sounding as the XP32. Okay, well guys, that's all I got for today. Thank you so much for following me. There's a lot more to come on my channel, a lot more trials, a lot more equipment, a lot more things that you guys hopefully find interesting, and that I really hope you guys continue to join me, because we're going to take the M6 to a whole new level. The M6 is going to go really far, and I think you guys are going to like what I'm going to be doing with them. Okay, stay tuned and please subscribe. Good night.